Here's the first story I'm going to tell you about 10-9. It has to do with the the algorithmic nature of today's life. You know how the algorithm is like constantly playing with us, whether we're using Facebook or we're using Google, and we say something and the computer hears us, and then they send an advertisement our way because they heard us utter something. Excuse me. It's like the experience of using the internet or interacting with the internet has become a curated experience, right? One day you do a search for something, the next day you see an advertisement for it, right? So they give you what you want to experience. They give you what you want to see. I had an experience 10, now 11 years ago, whereby I bought a ticket to ride the train and I was given a seat assignment in row 10, and it was just 3 days before my birthday. And I kind of felt like the algorithm was working for me to put me in row 10 3 days before my birthday, on this train ride. But truth be told, it was just a coincidence because the ticket attendant, the person who was giving me a ticket, who was assigning whom I paid for the ticket, she wasn't thinking about my birthday when she made my seat selection. At least I don't think so. That's not how things work. It was just a coincidence. But I remembered that moment, and in that moment, how did I feel? I felt as if it was this miracle, and it was as if the algorithm was working to put me in that row. I couldn't explain it, but I just felt like, man, that's odd. Did she actually look at my birthday, 10-9, and make a determination? He'll sit in row 10. It's around his birthday. That was a thought that went through my mind. The story that I want to tell is not that story. I was just, that's the preface, right? That happened to me 11 years ago. I was driving for Uber now 3 days ago. It was January 11th when I picked up a passenger who was traveling to Los Angeles for the very first time, alone, which is how I travel, a solo traveler. So I understand the complexity of traveling alone, how you're lonely, how you're figuring things out on your own. It's a difficult process. So I was kind enough to this person to wait for them to find my vehicle when she couldn't find my vehicle initially. See, as an Uber driver, I could have just canceled the ride, like, oh, she can't figure it out. I've got to get to the next customer. I decided to wait. It was a long distance journey. I was going to make some good money. I figured I'll wait. I'll help this passenger. So there was no need for me to cancel her ride. After she got in my car, I asked her a few questions about her travels because she was already, frustrated and annoyed with the situation. And I was just chit chat. So throughout our conversation, she mentioned that she came to Los Angeles for her birthday, to celebrate her birthday with her friend. Well, her birthday was 2 days prior. So she was riding with me on January 11th. I quickly did the math. 2 days prior, that means her birthday was on January 9th. Now, we continued talking, but I didn't just spring it on her and say, hey, January 9th is a 109 birthday. 109, January 9th. I'm 10-9, October 9th. So it's still 10-9. It's the same thing. I didn't go into all of that. I just sat there and I said to myself, that's interesting that the passenger who's a solo traveler who was matched with my Uber, I got her as a passenger, as a fare, she also has a birthday on a 109 date. 109, okay? Yes, you can change the numbers around because even at one time I asked her, I said, how would you read those? How would you communicate? How would you say your birthday using 3 digits? She said 019. So you can play with these numbers. But in my case, I would say, no, 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 no. 109 is also January 9th. 1 for January, 09 for the day. You follow me? It's a convoluted mental gymnastics exercise, But that's why I'm here. So anyway, when I learned she was a January 9th baby, I was sitting there. I was driving the car, saying to myself, that's bizarre that I was matched with her. It was like the algorithm put her in my car so that we could have this conversation about 109 or 109. It was bizarre. And after some distance, after several minutes in my car with me, I told her I have a copy of my book in the back seat, the little pocket in the back seat. So she pulled out the copy. She saw that after we talked about 109, and she was like, GTFOH. I won't say it, but she was like, are you serious, dude? Are you kidding me, man? It was like, whoa, for her, just as it was for me. Like, that's wild. That's crazy, man. So that was a 10-9 story that took place. Now it's been 3 days, and it was just bizarre. It was magical. It was bizarre. It was peculiar, and it really made me feel as if the algorithm was working to match her with me, so that we could have that conversation, that meeting, that 109 story, so I could eventually bring it to you and talk to you more about these mundane, ordinary numbers. 10-9. Peace and blessings. You're listening to iSee109. I'm Larry Wiggs. Hope you enjoyed this one.